and that would be giving you a modified PowerPoint. Or maybe I should come and you should do the work. So I decided that I come and you be part of it, and we'll see where we go with it. And if it's boring you to death, we've always got the PowerPoint, and then I can just feed you information. The purpose of today is for all of us to learn how much of this was a takeaway for you, how much of it you were able to use, was it successful or wasn't it? And it's feedback for you, and it's feedback for me. And we're going to review principles as we go. I'm going to, how many are there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 into 51 is about 4 of each. So I'm going to give you 4 random. Sometimes you're just going to teach the group. Sometimes you're going to ask the group a question. So if I were talking to you like this, it'd be kind of boring. So you've got to ask the question to the group with some animation, with some energy, and some volume. Are you guys part of the group?
They are guests. You guys want to join in? I guess.
Oh, you are guests who have not been through the training.
Right.
So you're here to soak it up.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so that makes it even more important that you guys sound smart, okay? Because they're relying on us to know what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to give you each 4 of these. I stapled them, but you have to be careful as you open them. Oh, and I want to tell you what else I did. I stopped at Target and got a Target Visa gift card for 25 smackers. We're going to have outside help to help decide which one of you participates the most richly. That doesn't mean you have to be right all the time, but with the most degree of participation. And Catherine is going to keep some kind of account. I'm not sure how. So you really want to impress Catherine, okay? What? Yeah, the problem is, so maybe the problem is Catherine. I think we might need to pick someone else, Catherine, if you don't shape up. What? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. If you get really big sheets of paper, consider yourselves lucky, because you'll just be sharing some thoughts. Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it? We get to hear all the announcements. Mm-hmm. You know what? You've got the baby to take care of. No, you get a freebie. You, on the other hand, get to work.
Thank you.
Hello, you got a free.
Coming back to
it's so good to see you guys. Yes, it's very fun to see you. I feel like I'm seeing old friends.
Thank you.
There you go. And that should be 4. Maybe we should give some to Catherine.
I think that's a really good idea.
There you go, 4. Catherine, if there's any left over, you own them, honey.
Question.
Catherine.
Ooh, I get 1.
Well, do you think other people are coming? I'll give you 4 and you redistribute it as you think. Okay, so let's just start. So we're going to go in chronological order. They all are numbered, and I have the code, so you guys, there's no screwing around. I'll catch you if you're out of turn. So who's got number 1?
Where are they at?
Oh yeah, you have to open them to find the numbers, sorry.
A little tricky.
Do your best with the staples. You want me to help you? I have fingernails to peel it off.
I did them all.
Okay.
I've been at it for a while.
We're looking for number 1. And you're not asking me because I wrote the training. You're asking the group. Anybody find number 1 yet? That's why I have my cheat sheet. Number 1? I have number 2. Close. Number 1? 19. Who's got 1?
Oh, yes, good job, sorry.
Okay, so while the rest of you are unwrapping, please don't ask me the question, ask your group.
What would you like to do today? Do we just talk out loud? Or do we have to raise our hand?
Well, it depends how many of you want to talk simultaneously. No, talk out loud.
What was the question again? Today, I would like to, I feel like whenever I read the email about the invitation, I was kind of like excited to get like a refresher and kind of like reset, because to be 100,000% honest, I have not, everything goes well whenever I'm consistent, but then sometimes life and kids and everything else gets in the way, and I kind of forget about all of the stuff that I learned, and it all just goes down the drain. So I'm kind of excited to get like a little refresher and probably some encouragement, and like, okay, you're not the only one that has happened to. It's happened to more than just you, and just to kind of like get a reset and a refresh and
Good.
Get back on the right track.
Okay, we'll do that. And you know what? The kids will let us know every time, won't they?
Yes.
When we forget steps, when we get off the track, you've got a report card right there just waiting to be issued. No, it's not. It's like a speeding ticket. It's a police citation, and you get it right between the eyes. So I know a couple of you will be really sad to share your numbers, but I think... Okay, okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on refresher. Who's got number 2? Okay, read it out loud for us.
Raise your hand if you have seen any positive changes in your children's behavior since attending the Pillars for Success training.
Okay, so that's a pretty, raise your hands nice and high, because I got to go in circles. So you have had positive responses, and if hands are down, we're saying I tried, but not so much.
Consistent. That's why my hand's halfway up.
And your kids, again, they are the absolute grade for you. They'll let you know if you're consistent. Okay?
Like my positive has been more in my responses and my ability to relax and not let them take control of their behavior.
And have you found that that is effective in reducing conflicts and increasing cooperation?
Get rid of them. If they don't, then I can send them on their way, because they're not going to tear them again. They're not going to wear them again, because I've got more tools to keep counteracting whatever they bring.
Wow. Anybody else with the more tools? You guys, let's hear.
I second that.
Okay.
When you're, see the difference in yourself compared to...
Yes. If you want to change, if you want to create change, first you have to change. You have to be the one, and that's true in life. I think I told you I probably gained and lost 1,000 pounds in my life. And every time I stop eating fattening foods, guess what I do? And work out, guess what I do? I lose weight. But every time I just think about it while I'm having some apple pie, it doesn't work. You have to create the change, and it's the same thing with the children in your lives. Okay, how about number 3?
Oh, I just looked with them, I'm sorry. Raise your hand if you have seen any changes in your relationships you have with your children since attending the Pillars of Success training.
Whoa, you guys. That is awesome. That is awesome. Can somebody give me some examples?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I want to get out of the way of the camera.
My daughter and I have a lot more positive times rather than the negative times. We can look at each other. She's 5 years old, granted. She's 5 years old, but I can see her better when I'm right next to her in my mind. Like how you said a while back, you have to get their level. You have to be like, in your mind, you kind of got to go up right next to them.
Yes.
And see the world from their viewpoint. Because as an adult, when you view it from your viewpoint, it's like apples and oranges. You're not really talking
That's right.
the same.
And so this is a good time. Why don't we just pass these out? I should have done it before. So what we have is a summary of the pillars, and this is such a timely point to do this. And I'll look over your shoulder if we're still short. So take one and pass them along. So what she's referring to is that pillar number 1. Children think differently from adults. When we use adult logic on our children, it doesn't work. And have you ever tried asking your kids, could you tell me what I just said to you?
Yes.
And could they answer? No. And one of the ways to check yourself on that is to ask your kid, can you tell me what I just said? Because I want to make sure we're communicating. I want to make sure we're talking to each other. So when it seems like they don't respond, one of the things you want to do for your checklist is ask them to repeat what you just said. I love when parents, we try to teach values, we try to teach attitudes of life. Those conversations are so noble. And if your kid is either half asleep or just extremely polite, they'll listen, but ask them to tell you what you just said. So and that's not because they're not listening or they're refusing you, it's because their brain doesn't work the same way yours does. They don't get it. They just don't get it, and neither did you at that age, and neither do some people at this age. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say with my oldest daughter, I've just seen her come out of our room. I feel like just our whole house, we've seen so much more peace and calmness, and I feel like where she was usually plugged into her book or her headphones, that sometimes she still has her book and her headphones, but she's out on our couch now instead of in her bed by herself. And so I've just seen, as we have just walked in some of these, I've just seen relationships change just with all the kids, but I've seen how they talk to each other, not all the time, but you've seen them talk to each other differently as we've modeled that, right? So they're not...
Oh, so they're solving things between themselves and communicate. Whoa, that's really...
Good. So I feel like, just big steps, seeing my 13-year-old just come and be a part of us more. And then just, there's just an overall more peace. So there's...
Yeah.
We were talking because we have 5 kids. So the other day we went on a little trip and we were like, because there's 49 the relationships between this family. And then when they said that, they kept re-saying that. They're like, wow. Because just that idea of like, okay, so how do we navigate all these different relationships? And that was really helpful and eye-opening for all of us to think like, okay, so how many people are in your family? Multiply that. That's a lot of little relationships and feelings.
Yes, it is. Especially when each one of them is a moving part.
Right.
So how you feel and your relationship to me in the morning might be very different than how you feel in your relationship to me when I just took the last cookie on the tray at lunchtime. So yes, absolutely. Okay, what are we on? Number 4. Who's got number 4? Yes, ma'am. Nice and loud.
What are the changes you see in the relationships you have with your children? More cooperation, less cooperation, more arguing, defiance, less arguing, defiance, and we're not going home until we hear from at least 5 people.
Okay. Yes.
I wanted to kind of expound on what I was saying earlier about our relationship. My daughter, she's really, she's an introverted thinker, and she's got a lot of quirky things about her, but I couldn't quite wrap my mind around those different ways of thinking because I couldn't come to her level. But once I came to her level and I would have a conversation with her, I pull her aside sometimes and I just ask her questions like, how was your day? And it's not like this interrogation setup, but it's just more like a relaxing atmosphere, like, hey, buddy, I want to know what's going on, and she's more willing to open up with that approach. But before, my personality is so extroverted and so dominating and domineering that it was kind of like rolling over the top of her and her personality where she didn't feel comfortable enough to bloom, in the sense that...
So you've recognized that and you're backing up so she can step forward.
Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
Encouraging her to be, hey, share with me, what is this picture? What is this picture that you're coloring? Tell me the story about it. She's got a crazy, amazing imagination, and it's very refreshing to learn the similarities that we have when I get up next to her and see her and reflect on my youth, and I'm like, wow, we're just alike.
Yeah.
Well, in a lot of senses, and I'm just like, before it was just like, I don't even understand you.
But you didn't.
Before,
But you
but now
didn't, so
it's
that's
totally
awesome. And anybody else? Yes.
I think just with the arguing piece, like it'll forever be in my head where you're like, you can't argue if you don't show up to the battle. And so, you know, like I'll say something and I'm like, but mom, this, and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna argue. And I just like walk away, and
Does she,
sometimes I still engage.
does she pursue you and try to get you to engage at that point, or she lets you back off?
No, if I don't engage back, they'll let it go.
Because I was going to say, if she pursues you after you announce you're not going to engage, the next step would be, don't announce it, just stop talking.
Okay.
And stop and just get real busy doing whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you remember Zach, my foster child was, and it was so fun to ask Zach the question, Zach, do I argue with me? No, I can't get her out. She just doesn't talk to me, you know, and yeah, so how about for the rest of you? Have you tried that not lining up at the battle line? And does that work? Yeah. Great. Yeah.
For us, always a big battle in the morning is with our 3 boys. They're close in age, and it's a battle of who takes a shower in what order. And usually we would have to just tell one of the kids to start, you know, your first, second, third, fourth, whatever, as far as which of the kids in their turn. But as last year and a half, basically, we haven't said you're going first or whatever, but they basically decided themselves, you know, by whoever got frustrated, it was just, you know, we said, whoever goes last may not have hot water, you know, or whatever, as far as to convince them that, you know, it might be to their advantage to go early in the process.
And if that's great. If that hadn't have worked, you might toss in something like it's in the morning before school. You might just add a little, oh gosh, and we're going to have for breakfast for everyone who can peacefully take their shower. That'll be the extra. Just put in that little extra thing. Yes, that's awesome. Any others? Oh, I'm so glad.
So I'm looking at the pillar number 3, disruptive challenging behaviors and way of coping. That kind of ties in with what you're saying, that they're coping with this jostling for power or whatever, and we have
Boom.
that all the time. So whenever that comes up, I try to think about what are they going through, or I'll just ask them, what's going on that you need to argue about this?
And are you getting a response?
Yeah.
And is that new? This way of handling it is?
I've done it for years, but they're getting older and mature, and then I've got other tools to start diffusing my reaction to their behavior. And then like in cases with them getting out to the car, I would have a special snack for them. Okay, if you can get in the car by this
I
time.
think I
they get a
remember
snack.
talking about that.
Yeah, we talked about
Yes.
that. Yeah, but you know, just in general, I think just recognizing that when they come up to disrupt, whether they're disrupting a child that's having a peaceful time and they want to
Yeah.
start making that unpeaceful and getting under their skin, whatever, that there's a reason for that disruption. And just I think their maturity has been better and my tools have been better. So when I ask them what's going on that you're doing this or that you're choosing this, they're more likely to respond right away instead of beating around the bush and making me look for it.
And they're also hearing from mom, I really care that this is a tough time for you. And the way you're doing it, the unspoken part is also, let me hear how you solved it, and do you need help? Not you're being punished for being rude, and that's the P word anyway, right? We don't use that word. Not that but that, how can I help you?
Yeah, and I'm empowering you to solve the underlying problem that's causing you to inflict your problems on everyone else.
Catherine, they've even got the vocabulary. She's empowering. You guys are amazing. Anybody else? Okay, so we're... Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, like what Randy had said about not going to the battle, what you had said about power struggles, because somebody's always going to win and somebody's always going to lose, and that was so huge. And I'd read other parenting books, but my husband had never come to anything with me, so the fact that he came with, and it put us on the same page, was so good, and so that was huge. So just like being able to look at each other and being like, we don't want a winner and a loser, and just being able to stop and not engage, because I have one little guy, he will just not get his way say, okay, we're gonna turn off the TV in 10 minutes, he'll just wail, or, you know, something simple, and so we just don't engage, and we'll just let him take a break. You know what, you can cry, but if you're gonna cry loudly, you have to go to your room. And, so just to give him that freedom, but then my husband, and I would do this a little bit, but my husband never did. He would just get me out right away. And he would, now he'll just sit and be like, I know this is really hard for you, isn't it? But
Whoa, your husband's...
no empathy to them. And he's like, I still don't like doing this, but I know, but like...
But he can say that to you privately. This sucks, yeah.
But I've seen like with the three of our littlest ones, like we have a 9, a 7, and a 5, and our 5-year-old had some like health stuff, so she was on crazy medicine, and it just kind of disrupted the whole house, and she was like all out of whack.
Yeah.
But you just saw him grow in compassion, but it was because of what you said about being able to say, this is hard for you. And maybe it's because you didn't get the blue one, but him being like, this is hard for him. This change, this transition, this getting up late, this whatever. So that has been such a huge difference in our house because that helps make everything peaceful.
And you can, yes, and you can take that one step further. You can say, this is hard for you, and you're doing such a great job getting through it. You give them the plus at the end. You acknowledge how they're feeling and say, how amazing that you can tell me how you feel instead of just having a problem, and problem solve along, and I'll try to help you too. Good for you. Anybody else? All right, I keep losing track of the numbers. What are we on, 6? Thank you. Okay, number 5. I'm glad someone's paying attention to the numbers.
Raise your hand if you see changes when your kids are out in public, i.e. school, shopping, etc. Positive changes, be specific. Negative changes, be specific.
So home is one place, that's a familiar environment, and you've got most of the variables kind of lined up now so that you're able to get positive solutions to potential conflicts and acting out behavior. But how about when you take them out in public? Do you remember to use those techniques, and do they respond as well? Yes.
I find it much, much harder to implement these strategies of success in public. And that's because...
I'm just going to interrupt one thing. Is it because they're not doing it or you're not implementing? Is it because they're not responding as much in public or because you're not implementing as much?
It's me.
Okay.
I know this. But home feels so much more comfortable. I have a hard time with addressing issues in public because it's embarrassing to me.
It is.
And being embarrassed, it really irritates me, like enormously irritates me. So I have a really hard time implementing that. And so because I implement it at home, or not all of them, but some of them, implement some of them at home, but not outside of the home, there's this inconsistency that I notice, and I know it's difficult for both of us. Like, obviously it's hard for me, but I'm sure it's hard for them too, because they're just like, kind of confused. Like,
and it's different variables you're dealing with. It's harder to be consistent in a new setting, especially a public setting when you're on show. Does anybody else experience that? Or it's just harder outside? Yes?
Actually, it's the reverse. They're well behaved outside of the home, they're well behaved from other people, but they act out more with me. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
Going out isn't as bad, it's just more of correcting etiquette. Like, okay, we don't do this when we're at this place, and we're like, okay, you know. But at home is where, I guess, they're free to be themselves, and that's where we have.
Well, that's part of it, but it also invites and challenges you to look and see what's different. Why is it happening here more? Usually, it's not uncommon for kids to act out when they have a great audience and they can really make you embarrassed and all. So the fact that they're doing it at home is an invitation to you to see what's happening in the interaction between me and my kids, or with them with one another, that's causing it to happen more here. It's not random if you see it repeatedly. There's some variable that's different, and it's a challenge to be able to find out what that one is. But I do want to say one thing, and then I'll listen to you guys. When you have challenges, whether it's in public or at home, you can also set up the situation in advance to say what it is you want to have happen and what nice thing is going to happen as a result of that. So I would make the comment to my kids, you know, after we'd been out together, how many kids have you got? 2. I would make the comment, you know, I notice that when we go grocery shopping or to the park or wherever it is you're going, that you two are so cooperative, not much more than, just are so cooperative when we're out there. How do you think we can have that happen at home? And raise the question and ask them, what do you think we could do differently to help? I don't know, and you have to start watching closely. Are they more challenging because they've got to share toys there? If you look, behavior, from my perspective, is never random. There's always a purpose to behavior. Maybe not a sneeze, but other kinds of behaviors. You know what I'm saying? Sneezing we just do. But there's usually a reason. So that's just kind of an invitation to see what are the dynamics that's going on here that might be causing them to compete more for power and control or attention, you know, or whatever it is. And you're more than welcome to email me or do whatever. I'd love to know. You will see it, and I'd love to.
Tell you. They don't want to do things at home. They don't have, when they're out and about, there's no responsibility.
Oh, so it's more at home because you're asking them to do chores or help around?
Or do homework, and so they don't want to be at home because then they have things they're expected of them. And so they'll tell people, that's why we don't behave at home.
So one of the questions that has one of these points on it, I'm going to ask you right now, which is how many of you use a point sheet? Does anybody keep a tangible record with their kids of behaviors that are expected? So the way you would do it is if a kid is constantly saying no or whining when you say it's time to come to dinner, you wouldn't say whines when comes to dinner, you would say comes to dinner peacefully. You would take the negative behavior and flip it over to the positive, and that's what goes on the point sheet. Are any of you utilizing that method of where you list the behaviors? Yes, you list the desired behaviors, and you know, some people think, well, let's have the kids chip into it. I kind of say, I might get a little bit of input, but I kind of say, you know, I'm giving you the gifts for your choices. I get to decide what, you know, what I'm looking for. And you kind of, whether it's coins or TV time or gum or whatever, you know, you think has value to your child. But one of the ways to get around some of that random is to isolate those behaviors right there they are, flip it over to what you want to see in place of it, and that could go on the point sheet.
So I printed out the point sheet, but then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make the point sheet, I have to know what I want. So then I just wrote out what I wanted, and by the time I finished writing it out, I just stuck it on the door. And so when they want to argue with me, I'm like, oh, well, it's already up there.
So utilizing the point sheet is something you check every day. It's not just posted like these are the expected behaviors in our home. It's a ceremony almost. We used to do it routinely after dinner. We'd sit down and review and go through the point sheet, and I don't want to say grade it, you can't pass or fail, but evaluate whether the child did those behaviors, not attitudes, not feelings. You can't measure those. You can measure behaviors. They also don't think abstractly, like having a good attitude. I don't know what that means. Saying, okay, Mom, when I ask you to tie your shoes, or you know, whatever it is. That's a behavior. So you want to keep your point sheet on behaviors only, and then start small. And you could even, so if the kid is it becomes a power struggle over whether they'll do the point sheet or not, so you give an inch. And you might say, well, I'm the one doing the rewards, but I'm inviting you. What are a couple of things you think you'd like to work on? And get them invested in that. And put that down. Good job. That kind of a thing. So the point sheets do two things. They help you organize what you want. More importantly than that, they require you to put it in behavioral terms. Like I said, you don't want them to cooperate, you don't want them to be peaceful, you don't want them to be gentle with the baby. If you were measuring those qualities with your eyes, what would you see him do that would tell you that that quality has been met, that his behavior reflects that. So I could say to all of you, I'd like you to be polite. You know, maybe polite for you is, I don't know what, playing with the baby half the time instead of all the time. Maybe polite for you is something different, and for you is something different. But if I say, I'd like you to look at me when I talk, and please wait till I call on you, and then you can have your turn to talk, you know exactly what I'm looking for. There's no assumptions there. That gap is even bigger when you're talking about children because they don't think abstractly. They're very literal, they're extremely behavioral. So, a hand went up? Yes.
I started out very rigorously doing the point sheet. I thought it was a wonderful idea. It became a power struggle, like you said, where it was just like, well, if I don't do it, then all I miss out on is such and such, you know, so I don't really care. It became this maintenance thing where it was frustrating for me to maintain it, and it was frustrating for him to buck up against it.
So so you did the exact perfect thing to stop. But now you want to look and you want to say, how many items have I put on the point sheet? Is this more than the kid can tolerate? What am I asking of him? And so you know, we talk about developmental levels, not chronological ages. We talk about developmental ages. So you may have a 12-year-old with the patience of a 6-year-old. Give them a bunch of stuff or even big words in those requests, and it's like, I don't want to deal with this. Do you know what I'm saying? So you would simplify it, and you'd start out with a few. And again, maybe invite the kid. Oh, I forgot to shuffle my phone. Maybe invite the kid. Would you like to put one on here? Would you like to put one on here?
And for the summertime, I think implementing those things as I'm not as crazy busy and our lives are not so hectic with school and homework,
Yes.
church and activities after church and birthday parties, all of this. I mean, like, we're swamped with all of those things. During the summertime, I don't mind readdressing that and trying to maybe implement it in maybe a different approach maybe, and work that out amongst us. But right now, with the chaos that's going on, we just have a hard enough time getting showers in and, you know, just the maintenance things.
So let me ask the rest of you, how many feel that it's just almost more work to do the point sheet than the benefits? Yeah, don't be afraid to raise your hands. So for some of you, it's a lot harder. Do you think it's a matter of practice? Do you think you've got too many items on it? Do you think it's your lack of familiarity with doing them? Yes?
I'll just say, I think the point chart is a little different, but we started a morning routine and a bedtime routine chart for our kids, and we've been doing it, and it's worked so well. So like in the mornings, and we did like emojis and stuff, so like my kindergartner that can't quite read, you know, she can see, okay, brush teeth, get dressed, eat breakfast, you know, like that, all the things. They have to have their backpack ready, because like there's too many mornings we're like, hey, where's this, and it just was
chaos. Yeah.
But we put it on them, and it's very, you know, behavioral, it's this, and it's like ready by 7:15.
And what is the reward for that?
So then they get a check mark, and if they have a perfect week, we get to go out for ice cream as a family, and when they get home, they get 15 minutes of screen time before they do their homework. So those are the two things. So it's like they have a daily reward or consequence, like where they don't get it, and then at the end, outcome, yeah.
Thank you.
And then at night, they have a chance to get $2 at like the end of the week. It will probably lessen, but just like while we're like doing it, and it's like brush your teeth, pajamas, because they would just go up and play and whatever, and we're like, you guys have, you know, 30 minutes to get this chart done. And so then my husband and I, after dinner, like we can talk for a bit, and they can do their bedtime routine, and we go up and say prayers and kiss and read a book, and I thought of you too. You're like, hey, if you guys do a good job and finish, then I have time to read a story. Yeah. If you don't, there's no time for a story, you know. And so just things they want as well. But it's been like really, really good.
So I told you at the point I had 3 foster kids, and I told you about Will. Will could create chaos. He was a master at chaos. And one morning at breakfast, he had the other kids, I mean, they were falling off their chairs laughing, bowls of cereal were getting spilled, and I was the mom who didn't think I wanted them to have the sugar-coated cereal, but I kept those Fruit Loops in the high cabinet. And all I did, I never said a word to anybody. But as soon as this one was even between giggles, laughs, and spitting out his cereal because he was being so silly, I just put a Fruit Loop in his mouth. Never Will, because Will was falling off the chair laughing. And then this one did something right. Never said a word, just put a Fruit Loop in. I probably did that maybe about 4 or 5 times. And Will still kept up with the chaos, and the others settled down because they're getting periodic Fruit Loops. Intermittent reinforcement. I told you, intermittent, which is periodic and not in a perfect sequence. Intermittent reinforcement is the most powerful reinforcement of all. And all of a sudden, in all the chaos of the noise Will's making and cereal flying and milk spilling, he stops, just as if I hit the off button, and he looks at me as calmly as can be, and he says, "Don't I get a Fruit Loop?" And I looked at him totally surprised. I said, "Did you want a Fruit Loop?" Like, I didn't know. And he said, "Yeah, I would like a Fruit Loop too." But actually, when I answered him, remember I told you guys about whispering? So when I answered him, I told you everything stopped, and he said to me, "Don't I get a Fruit Loop?" And I said, "Well, did you want a Fruit Loop?" And he said, "I would. I'd like a Fruit Loop." I said, "Well, I'll watch, and next time you're real quiet, I'll give you a Fruit Loop too." We spent the morning whispering. It was the most amazing. It went up till lunchtime. And the other kids, as soon as they'd whisper, I'd say, "Oh, you must want another Fruit Loop." You know, whatever. It's amazing how something like that works. You're right at their developmental cognitive level. You're kind of playing. You're not giving them verbal instructions. You're just simply doing something differently. And then you're popping a reward in their mouth. It's amazingly successful. So try it. And you guys, I don't know if you still have my email address, and if not, please send it. I'd love to hear from you on how some of this stuff is going. All right, is there anything else on this one? Or we've got a lot of pages, and you guys think you're going home, but we're not out of here till we're done. Should we go forward? Okay. We're on 6, right? I finally caught on. Who's got number 6?
I do.
Go for it.
Is there a difference in cooperation from your child, and I want to put in there or children, when at
Oh, sorry.
home versus when out in the community? What's the difference?
And what is the difference that you see? Because sometimes kids behave more at home, and mom gets them out there, and they're like bowling with lettuce heads at the grocery store in the produce department, and yeah.
I was going to say this about, I think there are just 2 different kinds of kids, but when your kids upset more at home, because I was like baffled by this for years, because my kids grew up in a family childcare home. So like I could go to the zoo, to Walmart, to get groceries if I need to with 8 kids, and everyone behaved perfectly fine, but then like 5:30 would come, the other kids would go home, and my kids are driving me a little bit crazy, and I'm like, these kids are good, but what I realized was that for me, I wasn't on my game when daycare wasn't going on. I'm like, mommy just wants to watch Oprah and fold the laundry. So like they're like, can I eat whatever? And you know how you're like, yeah, like as long as you're being quiet, like leave me alone. And I just feel like, so in my case, my kids totally know better, like when we're out and about, because
They always know better. That's
like when your kids know that mom's not playing out and about. But at home, mom's busy, she's distracted, she didn't notice, like, and so it's not that my kids were ever bad, but I was just like, man, sometimes I'm like,
yeah.
Because all the daycare parents would be like, they're so much worse for me, and I'm like, so are mine. Like, after daycare hours. Not that they were ever bad, but I just noticed that, again, it boils down to where we are as parents, because they get away with it.
But you can take one step toward having a different outcome. So the step would be to simply have a conversation with them afterward. At some point they're going to calm down and say, you know what, I notice that every time the kids who come for daycare leave, it's like everybody flips out over here. and I end up getting frustrated, or you could even say to them, how do I react? What do I do? Oh, Mom, you're cranky, you tell us to sit down and shut up, whatever it is. And then say, how could we do that differently, and what could we give ourselves to celebrate that we're doing it differently? And I'd let them know right at the beginning, okay, the daycare kid, I don't know if it's 9 to 3, it doesn't matter. They're coming at 9, today's a Saturday, so they'll be here till 3 or 5 or whatever. How about if I let you know at about 4 o'clock and you begin thinking about how you'd like to celebrate, how I could help you celebrate that you have a smooth, transition's too big a word, but something along those lines, that it goes smoothly for us after they've left. When you think about it, it's a major change in the dynamics of the group. How many kids did you have for daycare?
8.
And how many kids in your home? Your kids?
Well, 3 of my own.
3. So that's a tremendous change in dynamics, and I would imagine with 11 kids in the room, even if they're playing peacefully, it's pretty exciting.
Well, honestly, and it wasn't that they were bad. In my case, it was just that they didn't have the level of involvement, interaction. Nobody was watching them like you do in the store. Oh, no, don't touch that. You know what I mean? From the time they're little, you're like, oh, no, where is at home? Oh, they're not hurting anything. That's okay. Well, climbing up the counter to get a cup down or whatever before that leads to what are you doing on top of the fridge? What are you doing up there going through that back cupboard? It's just, it was a different, it wasn't even them being bad. I just noticed that my kids just didn't ask for things like 50 snacks during the day when I had a full daycare. I don't have a full daycare anymore, but...
Well, they were also highly distracted by all the activity going on in the room, too.
And it just was so structured. They knew that was a no. We can't do that, because if you want a snack, and then these people want a snack, and then forget lunch and just junk that, so we didn't do that. And so I noticed that it definitely had almost everything to do with me. And like I said, at 5:30, I wanted to be check out. You know what I mean? Let mommy, I'm still doing the laundry and stuff, but I'm not, I don't want to be the daycare lady right now. I just want to watch my shows and
And so sometimes we invite our children to be part of the solution. So we've got a challenge. We don't have a problem. Problems are negative. We have a challenge. So what do you guys think you could do while mommy sits down and watches Oprah? What would work for you guys? What would you like to do? So that mommy could have, if you're going for 3 shows, forget it. Maybe Oprah, maybe not 3 shows. Oh, she's not. But if you had 1 show, I wouldn't go for the whole ball of wax. I'd go for part of it, and then say, "Wow, thanks guys for letting me celebrate, for letting me rest. How can we celebrate that?"
Actually, the way we fixed it in my house is I just told them that, listen, I deserve to have downtime. As a human being, I deserved it. And they were either going to just behave themselves until 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I was going to, and I could get some of that me time in, or we could just have bedtime at 7. I would give them all my attention, they'd be in bed by 7, and I was still going to get my...
So you gave them a choice, though.
I did.
9:30 peacefully, or 7.
Yep, and it actually totally worked.
But your rationale, so the behavior change for the kids, the outcomes were changed to what was more attractive to them. But this idea of mommy's been busy with these kids all day long, and now mommy needs to rest and take care of herself, that does not compute in the cognitive world of children. So, and that may be one of the reasons that was such a challenge. What does that mean, Mommy? All those kids are out, now I got you to myself. Boy, I've been waiting to have you and I do this, that, or the other. So they don't think empathically, they don't have empathy for other people, because the children, not because you've raised selfish kids, but children are self-centered. And some of us get past it, and some of us don't. And some of us under stress go right back to being self-centered, because we go to a different developmental level. I need to take care of me. That's what little kids are. It's about me.
They're still taking care of them too, but...
Yeah, but I'm saying...
There's a standoff because mom wants to take care of herself.
Yeah. Okay, so what number are we on? I hope someone... Thank you. 11?
No, 7.
7. Oh.
I have 7.
Oh, 7. Sorry. Oh, we're going to be here a long time, guys. We got a lot of numbers. Go for it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of your time was spent dealing with challenging behaviors before taking this class, Pillars for Success? For example, number 5, half of the time, number 8, most of the time, and number 3, just on the weekend.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, put up your hands for how much of your time was spent dealing with challenging behaviors before. Okay, that's honest. You got a partner over there? Okay, and how much, since you've been able to implement some of the techniques that we've reviewed together, is it better? Thumbs up if it's better, and thumbs down if it sucks. So it is still a little bit better. Good. Good. Okay, number 8. I put my thumb on it. I got it right. I'm so concentrated on what I'm saying, I'm not listening to numbers.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of your time is now spent dealing with challenging behaviors after taking the PSS class?
Okay, so since the class, how many? So it's lower. And thank you for not giving me the finger. That was nice. Okay, number 9.
Oh, that's me. What techniques are you using from the Pillars for Success class that work to reduce/redirect/eliminate challenging behavior?
So we've heard of some of them. Are there ones that we haven't heard yet?
Well, one thing that I have used and I very consistently use is the timer, like setting the timer for the kids. If I am saying, after breakfast, okay, it's time to get ready, okay, it's time to get ready, okay, it's time to get ready, I just, after I say it probably twice, I'm like, okay, well, I'm turning the timer on. You guys have 15 minutes to get blank, blank, blank done. Mom is going to go do, get dressed or do whatever it is that I have to finish doing. And they're all done, finished, and ready, and G to G.
So you're not
So I'm
having that last minute.
Leave it on them, and it's their responsibility. And look, you have 15 minutes or 20, however many minutes. We're leaving at 7:30, and that's it. And so that just really helps them to hustle. And oh no, she's not playing. She put the timer on, and that's
Oh, the timer is serious business. That's really cool.
Yeah, my 7-year-old's like,
the timer.
no, please don't set the timer. And so it just really makes them.
Isn't that amazing how some?
Even go, and that's something that I've really used.
Good. Anybody else? God, you guys are amazing.
Expectations daily in the morning, and then when we get done with school, we're all in the van. And it's okay, this is what we're doing this evening. So we're all on the same page. We all know what we're doing. And even especially when we're out, going to the store, it's before we get out of the van, this is what we're getting. No to any candy. And then if you guys are good, maybe we'll get something on the way, or maybe later. But
and that works?
It works. They're
wow.
pretty good. So.
Anything else?
We're going into the library, what kind of voices?
Right,
That little refresher,
And if you find it doesn't start to work, and I know there are people who think that rewards are bribes, they are not bribes. You're not bribing your dog. It's behavioral therapy. You're not bribing your dog when you give him a treat for coming when you call him. You're rewarding him. It's the same, we're verbal, we have higher IQs, but it's the same behavioral therapy that you're using with the kids. So don't be afraid to toss in. So let's say going to bed works for a while, and then all of a sudden this one's fussing and that one's arguing because he can't get into the bathroom, and it just becomes a new challenge. Then you might say, you know what, the first one to get through whatever, and you decide what they can have. I don't know what it would be. If they've just brushed their teeth, you probably don't want to give them an M&M at bedtime, but do you know what I'm saying? Can have whatever in the morning, or you figure out what it is. In the morning is far away. It should be as close to the behavior as possible. A back rub. I'll give you a back rub before you go to bed. Who's ever in bed first, with those things done, let's do the back rub. Something like that. Okay, ready? What number?
10.
Thank you. Okay, who's got 10? Okay, oh good.
What techniques that you are using from the Pillars for Success success class do not work to reduce, redirect, eliminate challenging behaviors?
What hasn't worked? Let's go over that again. It all works? Oh my God. Well, don't think that hard. We could go with it all works. Yes?
Well, I guess as far as the, trying to avoid the conflict, because we've got different ages. Our oldest is 10 and our youngest daughter, she's 4 now, almost 5. And so she doesn't respond well to the, I'm ignoring you necessarily or not talking to you when she wants to throw a tantrum, so she'll just run off now, as opposed to staying there trying to get our attention.
She no kidding. Instead of the tantrum, she'll just
go into her room and then stop. So.
And if you want to just do that little extra something, that's a radical change in behavior. From standing there and pitching a fit and having a tantrum to just getting out of the space. I'd be tempted to toss some kind of I don't know what it would be, an extra story, a treat, scratch your back, whatever it is. That's a big decision she's made. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Anybody else? Number. Thank you. Who's got 11?
I do. What's your number one takeaway from the Pillars for Success class that works best for you?
The only person that you can change is yourself.
Amen.
The only person's behavior you can change is your own. Yes.
Keeping things short and simple for them.
That's a great takeaway. They don't have the attention span that we do. That's a great takeaway too. That's a great takeaway, yes.
And
Good.
Thinking about where they are at any particular point in time, where they at, and just trying to get on, she said, just getting on their level and seeing where they're at. I think that was it.
And that's a great perspective to have anyway. When your kids aren't responding to what you've set up, most parents would just decide that the kid is having bratty behavior or being oppositional or whatever. That's a great connection. You might say, what is it that I could do to connect with that kid and to get him to want to choose to do what I asked him to do? That's a great perspective.
I've actually learned, I have one of my third daughter, she's very emotional. I mean, she's sensitive, she's emotional, she's, just kind of that way. And I've noticed that about her, not in a bad way, it's a good thing. She's compassionate, lots of things that go along with being sensitive, but she'll get her feelings hurt easily. Oh, she's looking at me weird, and she'll start crying. It's just a big mess. But I've learned to be able to figure out okay, well, are your feelings hurt? Why are your feelings hurt? What can we do to help you to be able to kind of, work through it? And I've noticed that has helped a lot, just to be able to stop and think about that and have that in my mind of what, she is emotional, she is sensitive, and just to kind of think about her being sensitive and that's part of her personality. That's just the way that she is, and there's good and bad about it, but just being able to stop and think about that before, jumping to, whatever. Sometimes she just needs a hug. She'll just sit there and be crying, and you just stop, think, and give her a hug, and then she automatically calms down, and then she comes back and is like, I just want to say I'm sorry for, whatever.
And I would interject right at that point, and I'd say, I got an idea. Mm-hmm. Let's avoid the crying and the I'm sorry. What if you just come to me right away? Mm-hmm. And whatever I'm doing, I will stop and give you that hug. How about if you and I make that deal between us, and then we can skip the crying and the upset? Yeah, just come and let me know, because I can't always figure out, what each of us needs. You guys, let me know. And you know what else? You could teach your sisters. When they see you letting me know, I bet you they'll start doing it too. Make her, now she rises above to be able to set an example. So try something like that. Yep. Did anybody else? I see a hand wave?
I don't know. The biggest thing I took away was to sometimes just stop, evaluate the situation, think about it, and then come back at it. Because if you deal with it in the heat of the moment, or if you don't think about what's right, what's improving, what's not improving, you're just going to stay there. It's not going to progress. So that was the biggest thing.
As I began to learn all this stuff, I realized it's just like, how many of you wear glasses or reading glasses, or you're probably not young like me, you don't need it as much, but it's just like putting on a different set of lenses. All of a sudden, what appeared to be chaotic circumstances and chaotic behavior actually begins to make sense, because you're looking at it to say, what is going on? What is going on here? Whoa, pizza. Okay. So, number 13 on task.
Do you find yourself getting angry at your kids less or more, or does it seem like the same?
Hold up your hands for your angry less, angry/frustrated less. Okay, how about angry more, frustrated more? Nobody's more? Whoa. And that's awesome. And how about it kind of seems like the same, and we keep going round and round with the same?
Lack of consistency.
That lack of consistency is absolutely the most reinforcing thing you can do to continue the chaos, whatever it is. So you can't change it if you don't recognize it. So as you begin to see their behavior, you kind of say to yourself, why is this happening now? Oh, because yesterday it was okay, tomorrow it won't be, it's that lack of consistency. So once you recognize it, you can do something about it. So that's good. So every time you see your kids start to crumble, you just ask yourself the question, have I been consistent?
And every time it'll be no.
Okay, and then you say, so my continued use of lack of consistency is continuing the same scripts. Remember we talked about family scripts? So why am I doing this? And you have to and it might be I'm not recognizing the scripts. I'm just not seeing all the little parts of the script that happen that lead up to that slam, whatever it is that.
Yeah, it's just not paying attention to.
Yeah, but survival teaches us, right? You have to, everybody's got their limit, and you have to get to a point where you say, I just can't stand it this way anymore. I'm going to step back and really be an observer. So, but it's within your power to change when you get to the place where you say, I'm really going to pay attention to this. It's amazing when you start paying attention what you see. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing that. Yeah.
I think that because my anger is happening less often, when I do get angry, it's for the right reasons, and I use it more effectively. Like, I just naturally do that. It's when things have hit such a high level, like they've continued to do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
They know they're not supposed to do, and they have better tools and
Yes.
they use it. Or it's just the situation, and they're noticing, oh, she's angry, and she's angry because I made a choice. And they're reacting differently to that. Instead of just tuning me out or continuing the behavior or trying to get attention or, thriving on the negative attention, they're actually paying attention. And then I can say to them, again, what's going on that you continue to do this? I'm sorry, that's not going to get you what you want. So think about what you want and how are you going to get that?
So without planning as logically in their thinking, they're doing the same thing. What can I keep doing to keep pissing her off? It's to gain control, but they are not thinking one of those thoughts in their head. They are simply feeling the exhilarating power of being able to trigger you. So that's what but it's not a plan, it's not a thought, it's a spontaneous fulfillment of that need for power and control. So your goal then is to give them power and control in other ways and thank them for avoiding the conflict.
Yeah, and I can even say to them, you used to continue to blah, 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 but now I see you stopping and thinking and turning yourself around. How did you do that?
That's what I was just going to say. And then you do the marveling. How did you do that? Oh my gosh. Have you guys marveled? Do you remember to marvel? It's the most, raise your hand if you find that's a powerful technique. Oh my God, yeah, it's amazing when you marvel at your kids, yes.
I'm the director at our preschool, and just even teaching our teachers to marvel at the kids, and yeah, the preschool age especially, like they will just eat that, but really even my 13-year-old would be excited to marvel at her, so I think that's
Yeah. We're all excited when someone marvels over what we've done. we're just bigger than they are, but it's the same needs. We want to be marvelous too.
Well, you meant to insert before you make an observation, say, did you realize you used to?
So sometimes you can do that. I would not recount back to reminding them of what they used to, so much as saying, every time that happens now, every time we don't agree, not what you used to do, look how we're able to solve it now. Don't go, I wouldn't, whenever you pay lip service to anything, you're drawing attention to it, and in some small